I'm Laurel Beversdorf, strength and conditioning coach.
And I'm Dr. Sarah Court, physical therapist.
With over 30 years of combined experience in fitness, movement, and physical therapy,
we believe in strong opinions, loosely held.
Which means we're not here to hype outdated movement concepts.
Or to gatekeep or fearmonger strength training for women.
For too long, women have been sidelined in strength training.
Oh, you mean handed pink dumbbells and told to sculpt?
Whatever that means, we're here to change that with tools, evidence, and ideas that center women's needs and voices.
Let's dive in. Welcome to the Movement Logic Podcast. I'm Dr. Sarah Court. I'm a physical therapist. I have Henry in my lap because this morning he just apparently needs to have as much of his body pressed up against me. So we'll see how long that lasts, because he's just the tiniest bit too big to be a comfortable lap dog. I mean, he's comfortable. Let's not make any mistake. But am I comfortable? Anyhow, so today we're going to be talking about the placebo effect. Before we get into it, just a quick note that if you are interested in the Movement Logic Bone Density Course, Lift for Longevity, our 6-month barbell training course in which we teach you how to lift weights, how to use a barbell, how to progressively overload, and how to positively impact your body in myriad ways, not just your bones, but your muscles and even your psyche, your emotional outlook. It's a life-changing skill for a lot of women to be able to lift weights. And we want you to have that. So if you are at all interested in that or want to hear more about it, you can sign up for our interest list. We used to call it our wait list, but people got confused. So now it's called the interest list. And you can sign up for that at the link in the show notes. Or if you follow us on Instagram, you can also sign up for that list in the link in our bio on Instagram. Okie dokie. So I wanted to talk about this today because I recently saw a study that looked at giving trained lifters, right? So not beginners, trained lifters, a special pink drink to drink before they lifted. And this special pink drink was apparently going to help them lift more or lift heavier. Except the drink was calorie-free, it was sugar-free, it was basically flavored water, but the flavor didn't actually matter. What did matter was the fact that it was bright pink. Somehow, the pink drink boosted bench press performance in trained lifters. They got no extra carbs, they got no caffeine. Those are things that typically people will take to try to get more out of their lifting, right? No special supplement to optimize their performance, no magic, anything, just a pink colored drink with 0 calories and 0 sugar. How did that happen? Well, welcome to the weird and wonderful world of the placebo effect. So what exactly is the placebo effect? So the placebo effect is when a beneficial outcome happens after taking a treatment that has no active ingredient because the person believes that the treatment is going to work. For example, giving someone a white pill, telling them that it is an aspirin for their headache when it's actually just like a piece of candy. The placebo effect is when the person reports that their headache is better, but we know that there was no aspirin in the pill they took. They just believed it was, and the headache went away. Now, it's not this idea of, oh, it's all in your head. It's not all in your head in the sense that you're imagining things, but it is in your head in the sense that your brain can actually produce real, measurable, physiological changes in response to expectations. And because the brain has receptors for natural pain-relieving molecules like endorphins, the expectation of pain relief, such as when you're taking a fake pill, can cause the body to release its own endogenous opioids, which then bind to those receptors and reduce pain. But it's not only about pain reduction, as we found from this pink drink study. So the term placebo actually comes from the Latin for I shall please. And the earliest known description of these kind of placebo-type responses go back to the 18th century when Scottish physician William Cullen used the term to describe treatments that were given more to please the patient than to actually cure. So, right, this is this I shall please. But a more formal discovery that expectation alone can change your physiology happened during World War II, when anesthesiologist Henry Beecher was a medic out on the battlefields, and he's in the tent. He's trying to save these wounded and dying soldiers, and they start to run out of morphine. So he started going around just giving people saline instead of morphine and asking them how they felt. And a large number of them reported that they felt fine, that they weren't having any pain. So part of that likely has to do with the expectations, not only around pain relief, but around what would happen to these soldiers following their subsequent discharge, that they would get to go home, that they would get to go be in a hospital, they would get out of the battlefield, right? So in some ways, although they were wounded and having pain, they knew contextually that this meant that they weren't going to have to fight anymore. So that expectation alone, that there was going to be this positive outcome, may have impacted their sense of what their pain was. But since then, we've seen in research placebo effect in pain relief, depression, Parkinson's disease symptoms, and even in sports performance. So let's get into this pink drink study. The study's from 2023, and researchers in Brazil recruited 18 trained men, all roughly in their mid-30s, with at least 1 year of strength training, and they were all able to bench press at a minimum their own body weight. Now, before we get into it, I do want to say that yes, this is a single study. There's not a lot of people in this study, right? 18 people. Generally, we encourage looking at research that is really robust, like a meta-analysis or a systematic review, where the paper is collecting data from lots of other studies in an attempt to draw a conclusion about a specific topic. In this instance, we're not trying to use this study to conclude that the placebo effect exists. We already know that it does. We're just looking at this one example because I think it's really interesting, and it has implications for how we all approach our exercise. So the study design was that the participants did 3 sessions of bench press. Each session they did 5 sets to failure at 70% of their 1 rep max with 2-minute rests in between. And then before each set, the participants were split up, and they either drank 100 milliliters of a pink, artificially sweetened, non-caloric drink, or, and I think this is interesting, they drank an identical but clear drink. So same taste, same sweetness, no carbs, just wasn't pink, but otherwise identical. And then the third group drank nothing at all. So here's what is, I think, really interesting. The participants were told that both the clear and the pink drink were carbohydrate-based sports drinks designed to improve performance, when in fact neither one of the drinks had any carbs in them at all. And the only difference between the pink drink and the clear drink was the color. And then what they found in the results was that the people who took the pink drink did 60 reps total over 5 sets. The people who did the clear drink did 56 reps total. And the people who drank nothing also did 56 reps total. So that's roughly 4 to 7% increase in reps for the pink drink compared to the others, despite zero difference in motivation, arousal, mood, perceived exertion. They didn't feel like they were working harder. They just did more work. So what the researchers argue here is that pinkness is really associated across all different kinds of cultures with sweetness, right? We see food or a candy, something that's colored pink, we think sugar. Sugar means carbs. Carbs are a well-known source of improving endurance and sometimes even improving resistance training performance. So this sort of subconscious chain of association may have triggered the brain to expect to have more energy, and then the body delivered a little bit more performance. This isn't the first time that they have studied a pink drink to make athletes go faster or last longer. A study in Frontiers in Nutrition from 2021 had active adults doing a 30-minute self-paced run while rinsing their mouth with a pink calorie-free solution. They ran faster, the people taking this drink. They ran faster, they covered more distance, and they reported more pleasure compared to the same drink when it was clear. Same taste, no calories, just the pinkness alone. And a systematic review from 2020 in the European Journal of Sports Science shows that placebos can create small to moderate improvements in performance across strength, endurance, and skill sports, especially when athletes already believe in the active version of whatever substance they're taking. So it has a lot to do with the person's expectation around what the drink is going to do. And that's essentially the placebo effect in action. It doesn't work if you don't believe it's going to work, which is so wild. So this isn't the first time that we've seen the placebo effect in action in sports performance. There's a recent study in 2024 done on children. It was the first time they've studied the placebo effect on children. They took child kayakers and told half of them that they were getting this pill that was going to be performance enhancing, when in reality, it was actually just a Tic Tac, like literally a Tic Tac. And the children who received this message performed better. They had measurably higher heart rate and paddling distance in a 2-minute sprint. So it's incredible what the placebo effect can actually do. But here's the thing, it's not magic. If there's no strong belief or expectation behind the substance or the intervention, the placebo effect tends to be either smaller or just non-existent. So in the pink drink study, the clear drink did not outperform having no drink at all, even though participants were told that it had carbohydrates in it. This suggests that that visual cue of it being pink was the kind of extra oomph that the brain needed to trigger the belief that it was going to enhance their performance. Without that, just the verbal suggestion wasn't enough. And in the reverse situation, in some contexts, placebo can even produce a negative outcome, right? The nocebo effect, if the person expects harm instead of benefit. If you think something's going to hurt, it's going to hurt. And I see that all the time with my patients, right? So we see this placebo effect not just in sports performance, but in rehab and especially in pain science. These expectations play an enormous role, right? I see people doing movements that they tell me cause pain, and it's not that I don't believe them that they're having pain. They're having that experience, but there is no tissue damage in that area, or the prior damage has healed at this point, and yet they're still experiencing pain. One of the ways that we sort of reframe this then as clinicians is we will tell patients things like, this movement is safe for you to do. And we do find that this improves pain and improves function faster than either neutral framing or negative framing, right? Telling people, look out, be careful, don't move certain ways, right? This all sets up this nocebic effect where people then become afraid of movement, and where the movement does actually start to hurt, even if there's no physical tissue damage present. So it's really important in physical therapy and in sports medicine to build this sort of positive expectations around recovery. I've seen that so many times. I've seen people with the exact same, or it's never exactly the same, but let's say very, very similar diagnoses, maybe a herniated disc in L4, L5. That's pretty common, right? But I would see people's recovery be completely different. And, you know, even though this is completely anecdotal, it's hard not to assign at least some of that recovery to the fact that people who come in with a positive attitude, who think about it like, yes, this is an injury, or this is some tissue damage, but we're going to be able to fix it, or I'm going to be able to get out of pain, got out of pain. And the people who were more fixated on it, who took every sensation as proof that they were creating more damage to the tissue, very often would take much, much longer or have a much harder time healing. Chronic pain is one of the hardest conditions to work with, truly, because there's so many different complicated factors going on. And it very often has little to no correlation with the actual situation in the person's physical body, right? Any sort of actual tissue damage is often already healed, or it's no longer something that we could point to as the cause for their pain. Our bone density course, Lift for Longevity, is your step-by-step guide to building strength and protecting your bones with heavy lifting. And if you join the waitlist now, you'll get exclusive monthly free content, plus the biggest and only discount we offer when enrollment opens.
You might be wondering, how do I know if I'm lifting heavy enough to actually improve my bone density?
How can I keep getting stronger without getting injured?
What's the best way to modify lifts if I have joint pain or past injuries?
How do I fit strength training into my busy life and make it a habit that sticks?
If you've ever had questions like these, Bone Density Course Lift for Longevity will give you the clear, science-backed answers you need. But here's the thing, we only open enrollment twice a year.
That's why the waitlist is the best way to stay in the loop. Sign up now to get expert insights, strength training tips, and first dibs on the best deal we offer.
Your bones will thank you. Join the waitlist now via the link in the show notes.
So, if you're lifting weights, if we go back to this original study, what's the takeaway? Like, why do I care about this pink trick study, right? What does it mean for me as someone who lifts weights, as someone who exercises generally? So the takeaway is this: if you expect that something is going to help you perform better, whether it is a supplement or a ritual or a particular playlist, that belief can translate into measurable improvement, right? Which might mean more reps before you fatigue. It might mean more total volume in a session. Over weeks and months, it could lead to potentially better adaptations, more muscle, more strength, simply because you can train a little harder. So this made me think about creatine, right? Which is hyped a lot as something that women in particular are supposed to be taking so that they can build more muscle. And the research shows that there's an extremely modest, if anything, effect of taking creatine. And you only see it if you're actually also doing resistance training. You don't get any muscle building effect or other adaptations from creatine if you are not also doing resistance training. But let's say for whatever reason, you really believe that it's something that you personally are benefiting from and you take it religiously before every workout, you might see slightly higher results, slightly better outcomes than shown in research. You might find that you're building more muscle simply because you believed that you would. And without that belief, you probably wouldn't. It's so wild, right? But we think about our physical exercise, right? We think about getting our cardiovascular exercise, getting our weights in, getting all of these different types of ways that we train our bodies. We tend to think purely about the physical aspects of them and how we can best enhance them, whether it is the programming that we're doing or what we're eating or how much recovery time we give ourselves or if we're getting enough sleep, right? As if only physical aspects matter, but your mind is an active player in all of these aspects. Now, that doesn't mean that you can just meditate yourself as just this suddenly huge jacked person and you wake up. No, you don't wake up from meditation. You open your eyes from meditation and suddenly you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? That's not how it works. But what it does mean is that your expectations can either enhance or undermine your physical performance. And that the context and the way that a treatment or a supplement or training is presented to us can matter more than we think. And then dismissing placebo effect as fake or just like in people's mind, it kind of misses the point because it produces real physiological changes. It's just a different pathway. So you probably, like me, have some rituals around the way you exercise, whether it's wearing the shorts that you really like to wear or drinking caffeine or listening to your favorite song to get in the right headspace. I often, when I'm getting ready to do a heavy lift, scroll through whatever music is playing until I get to exactly the right song that's going to put me in the right mindset to do that set. Because this song in particular, or just today, this song in particular, or right now, this song in particular just gets me amped. That's not quite the same thing as the placebo effect, but it's part of creating this sort of positive mindset that actually has a lot of overlap with how the placebo effect works. Sometimes with patients or clients, when I want them to do a new exercise or to do something that they are a little bit intimidated by, and they might say, I can't do this. Or they'll say, I don't think I can do this. And I immediately respond with, not with that attitude, you won't. And I do it that way on purpose. I do it to kind of break the ice and make them laugh and get out of that kind of like fear space in their head. But also to help people explore, like, what is it about their own mindset and their beliefs that make them have this attitude, that have them look at something challenging with a level of belief that they can't do it. And if you're working with a person or a population that has been often told that something is too hard for them, I don't know, like older women and barbells perhaps, you might actually have to work through a lot of this nocebic negative condition that they have believed possibly their whole lives to get them to a place where they're willing to even try. I've done that many times with some of my older female patients when I want them to try out lifting barbells. Sometimes that ramp, that lead up to the barbell is very slow. And we work through a lot of, dumbbell deadlifts and dumbbell squats and proving that they have the capacity to hold something of the equivalent weight. And I say, okay, now this is the exact same thing. It's just a different shape. So sometimes there's a lot of conditioning, right? A lot of beliefs that someone has that you have to work through to get them to a place where they can even consider doing something that they used to think was impossible. How is this useful to you, dear listener? Well, it's worth thinking about, like, what do you do? What are your rituals around your exercise? Do you have to tie your shoes a certain way? Do you like to have a particular drink before you work out? Do you eat a specific food? Do you have a particular playlist that you run to because you know it'll make you run faster? Those are all things that can help you enhance your own performance and get you possibly stronger, faster, get you quicker, faster. All of these goals that we have around our own body's capability and exercise. And I would venture to say, even if you have negative thoughts about certain types of exercise or about your own capabilities, that might be worth taking a look at and seeing what is behind that. And I think very often we look at sort of the elite version of an activity and we say, oh, well, I can't do that because I can't do it like that person. Not knowing, right? Not thinking about the fact that that person trained thousands and thousands of hours to be able to do that. And of course you can't do that straight out the gate, but there are steps to it, right? Maybe it's something as simple as a box jump. It's not actually that simple. But maybe you signed up for CrossFit and you're going to CrossFit and you see all these people doing box jumps and you're like, there is absolutely no way that my 45-year-old knees are going to be able to do that. And the answer is probably right in that moment, probably not. But you start with little baby jumps, right? You start with hops. You start with getting your body accustomed to impact. You build more strength in your legs. You build your way up to it. And there's a strong likelihood, right? Barring previous injuries, barring other conditions that might make it impossible for you or very difficult for you, there's a strong chance that you'll be able to do it. So is this podcast episode me just saying, just try to be more positive about your exercise? A little bit, yes. But I think it's worth also just paying attention. How is your mood impacting your workout? How is your belief around how this workout is going to go impacting your workout? And see what happens if you flip the script. All right, everybody. Just a little quickie this week. Thank you so much for listening. And you will see in our show notes that I have a link to the interest list for our bone density course. So please get yourself on that list if you are interested in maybe pushing your own beliefs around what you can do and thinking maybe barbells is a mental block for you that's hard to get over. But we've seen hundreds of women, women of middle age. We're not talking like, Olympians, regular people. We've seen hundreds of women learn how to use barbells safely, build their strength, build their capacities for their life, and just flip the script on what they can do. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, definitely get on our interest list, and we will see you in 2 weeks.